Please join me in welcoming Shon Fuller.
Wow, freshman year. Everything's new, everything's different. It is information overload like you have never encountered. And at least for me, it was a battle against complete and total cluelessness, living in a whole new world. I came in excited, organized, ready to take on the world. I bought my books, about $400 worth, my notebooks, even my folders, color-coded for each of my courses to help me stay organized. I went to class, I took good notes, then put the syllabus for each class into those fine labeled folders. In fact, I didn't even miss class, at least not for the first couple of weeks. Anyway, to be totally honest, I was pretty shocked and amazed at how easy college was. Classes didn't start till 9 o'clock on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and 10 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I was out by 3 every day. And the best part about it is that no one was breathing down my neck about reading and homework like they did in high school. Life was good. I couldn't help but share my enthusiasm in a phone conversation with my parents. Called my mom and dad, "Hey, Mom, Dad, college is great. I'm having lots of fun, and I have lots of free time. Bye." Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but I had an older brother at the same school. And he was a senior, and apparently his phone conversations with my parents during his freshman year weren't quite as upbeat. I guess they're a little concerned that maybe I was a little too happy, so they told him to come by and check on me just to make sure things were okay. So he came by and we hung out for a bit, and I shared a few stories about how easy college was. And of course, none of the stories had anything to do with classes. And he smiled and nodded in a big brotherly sort of a way. Then he said, "Well, Shon, how's the school part of college going?" And as I told him how easy it was and how much less time I had to put in than I did in high school, I could tell he was becoming more and more confused. Finally, he stopped me. He said, "Shon, where's your syllabuses?" So I ran over to the folders, picked out the syllabi, handed them to him because I hadn't seen them in a couple of weeks. And the series of questions that followed brought a screeching halt to my fun, easy freshman year. Shon, have you read the first 12 chapters for your European history class? No. He said, "Did you know you had a calculus quiz on next Monday?" Well, I figured we'd be having one pretty soon, right? He said, "Well, have you read the first 14 chapters for your biology class?" Well, I haven't quite got to it yet. He said, "Have you started on that 10-page paper doing English next Wednesday?" Mm-mm. He said, "Did you know you had 4 major exams coming up in 2 weeks, all during the same week?" I'm like, "All that's in there?" He said, "Yep, it's all there." In my brilliance, I thought a syllabus was just a basic class overview. Hadn't quite understood that it was an outline for the entire course and a roadmap that I would be expected to follow closely if I wanted to succeed. Suddenly, instead of being a happy, impressively diligent freshman, I was a ball of stress who was 500 pages plus behind in his reading, in deep trouble on a major paper with a calculus quiz on the near horizon, and somehow had to find the time to study for those upcoming tests. I think I like being a happy, clueless freshman better. But the reality is, my brother gave me a wake-up call just in time to get me started back on the right track. And that's my goal here today, is to help you get started on the right track to get what you want out of your college experience. Think of it this way. Right now, you are on your ultimate road trip, with your final destination being graduation into a great career or grad school of your choice. What you choose to do while you're on this road trip, totally up to you, but I'm here to help you navigate. Now, everyone in here may not be a true freshman, but the advice, if you take it, still applies. My hope is that every one of you will walk out of here with some very specific things that you could do today to get to where you would like to go. I want to also clue you in on a few potential detours you might want to avoid if you want to be successful. Now, at the risk of sounding overly dramatic, and I will admit this will sound overly dramatic when I say it, but I'm going to anyway. I believe that college is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to literally change your world. Really. College is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to literally change your world, or not. Right now, you are all 4.0s on a level playing field with an opportunity to be on the dean's list every semester, graduate and pursue the job or grad school of your dreams. What you choose to do while you're here will impact what options you have available to you when you graduate, if any impact at all. In fact, let's look at the potential financial impacts. This is important enough to write down, so go ahead and flip to the first page in your guidebooks. Right next to where it says two-year degree. Someone with a two-year degree is projected to earn over $500,000 more over their lifetime than someone with just a high school diploma. You can write $500,000 right in that blank there. Someone with a four-year degree projected to earn over $1 million more over their lifetime than someone with just a high school diploma. Now notice I said someone with a degree. You have to actually graduate in order for the stats to apply. And unfortunately, it doesn't mean that you will have a $100,000 salary soon after you graduate. Now, some of you will make more than $1 million more. Really. Some of you will make less. That's your choice. But if you look at the U.S. Department of Labor statistics, you can't argue with the ability of college to change your world. Now, some of you may say, well, Shon, it's not all about the money. And to you, I say, college is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity not only to change your world, but to change the world. Anyone in here familiar with a guy by the name of Craig Venter? Craig Venter. Venter was one of those barely squeaked out of high school guys. In fact, he admits that if it hadn't been for a D- instead of an F he received in his high school government class, he wouldn't have graduated at all. But he did graduate. Because he didn't have the grace to pursue a power university, he decided to start out at his local community college. From there, he went on to become Dr. Venter. Founded a company called Celera. His company sequenced the human genome. Please don't ask me to explain that. But it revolutionized the way genetic research is done and is already helping to advance in finding cures for crippling and terminal diseases. Venter not only changed his world, he changed the world. Not bad for a guy who just barely squeaked out of high school. So, how can you go from sitting where you are today to actually creating a great future? Changing your world as well as changing the world. Although you just started on this road trip, it may be helpful to start at the end of the process to show you now what happens then. Because I think if you understand how the game is played, you'll be much better players while you're here at Purdue University, all right? So right there on page 3, you see a basic resume of a student named Angela, graduating student. Spells out her GPA, activities she was involved in, even her work experience. Who here would agree with me that Angela had a pretty decent showing while she was in college? Okay, yeah, woo! Next to Angela's resume is a blank resume. Guess whose it is? It's yours. So I want you to literally take the next 2 minutes, write your name at the top of it, and fill it in. What will your college experience look like on paper, provided all goes well for you while you're here at Purdue University? I know you'll be guessing a bit, but go ahead, take 2 minutes and fill it in because you're going to need it for what we're going to do next. Where's Harrison and McCutcheon at? See, they kind of live up there, right? What about Carrie and Windsor? I feel the love. Let's see how much you guys got as we trickle along. I'll give you guys about 30 to 45 more seconds. All right, let's look at what a third student might do. Let's call him Marcus. Marcus received a 3.8 GPA. Go ahead and fill that in. Activities included, he was captain of the soccer team, raised $3,000 as part of Beta Alpha Psi charity fundraiser, and he also had an internship with PricewaterhouseCoopers, the nation's leading professional services firm. You can write capital P, small w, capital C for short. Now let's make it a little interesting. I need some volunteers. Let's see, one right there. I'm going to take that gentleman right there. Let's see. Make sure you bring your guidebook and your pencils. I need your guidebooks as well. I'm going to see this gentleman right here standing in the back, this young lady right here, and there's a young lady all the way over there on the end. The one furthest to the aisle. You're right here. Stand up. Yeah, you. Come on up. No, you. Give them all a round of applause. While they're coming up, what I want you to do is take your guidebooks and switch with someone around your seats. Go ahead, stand up, greet somebody else, and switch your guidebooks. Stretch it out a little bit. Switch your guidebooks. All right, I need for you guys to switch up here as well. Okay. All right. Instead of being students, you are now recruiters who are hiring employees for your organization, okay? Success on your job depends on your ability to pick the best and the brightest. So, of the 3 resumes you see there on page 3, circle the one that you would pick. But remember, success on your job depends on your ability to pick the best and the brightest. So be brutally honest. Be brutally honest. All right. Raise your hands if you picked Angela. Angela gets no love. Raise your hands if you picked Marcus. Woo! And raise your hands if you picked the person whose guidebook you're holding. Yeah, not as much love, right? I don't want Marcus to get the job. I don't want Angela to get the job. I want you to get the job. So, what I want to do is to have the person who's holding your guidebook to turbocharge your resume or pimp your resume, right? I did this at one school. One student wrote, run a marathon. Second student turbocharged it to run a marathon in a time that qualifies for the Boston Marathon, then running that too. All right, so push these resumes up just another notch. You can use that last lavender box down here on the bottom of the page. You might want to consider raising the GPAs up. Or maybe they need to be involved in more activities. All right, let's check it out and see what Adam did to Kristen. Let's see what Adam did to pimp Krista's resume. What you got here?
Raised her GPA.
Raised her GPA from a 3.6 to a 3.9. Okay, was she involved in any activities?
Swimming, diving, flag football. She was a school senator.
Okay, cool. That's
internship with a financial firm.
Okay, that's good. What about over here?
Mina's was already really good. I really had nothing else to put onto it. Like I would have.
So she was already representing, right?
Yeah.
Okay then. And Kristen, now just tell me what you did with this GPA.
Okay, I raised his GPA to 3.6.
3.6 from a 3.2. Pretty good, right?
And then put
intramural football. So it got him involved in some more activities. And for you?
I raised his GPA to 3.4. He becomes SOC of BGR, and he becomes president of Owen.
Okay.
Talk, yeah, president of the student council.
Got you. So you guys seeing what they're doing with these resumes, right? You want to kick your resumes up just a notch to make them more competitive against students that you'll be competing with. All right, if you live in their residence hall, give it up for them. For helping me out, free stuff, of course. Here is the new citrus formula cleanser from Noxzema. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and thank you very much. Give it up for them, you guys. So how do you make sure that you are the one who is selected for the job or accepted at that grad school? You just have to be able to prove that you are a smart, problem-solving, computer-literate, team-oriented, entrepreneurial leader who's an ethical, well-organized, good communicator. Let me slow that down for you. You just have to be able to prove that you are a smart, problem-solving, computer-literate, entrepreneurial leader who's an ethical, well-organized, good communicator. These characteristics are spelled out for you on page 5, but we won't go through them in detail. You guys haven't even started classes yet. But the key here is to be able to prove to whoever is interviewing you that you own these skills. And you'll do that by what you accomplish in the classroom and outside of the classroom as well. It's all about making good choices. So here are 6 that you have to make. Number 1, take on an 8-to-5 mentality. Take on an 8-to-5 mentality. When I was a freshman in college, lived in the residence hall, and we had these 2 guys nicknamed Spaceman and Worm. Spaceman and Worm. The Spaceman and Worm were a little special because every night while the rest of us put on our backpacks and headed out to the library, Spaceman and Worm were headed in the other direction. They always had plans every single night. They never went to the library to study, right? So on our way to the library, we used to always talk about, man, Spaceman and Worm probably wasn't going to be around for too much longer. They'd be the ones who flunked out, didn't come back. Well, a few months passed by and first semester grades come out, and Worm did exactly what we thought he would do. Flunked out, didn't come back. But Spaceman came back. In fact, on the first day back, they posted the dean's list in the lobby of the residence hall. So I was a little excited, run over to the dean's list to find out whose name's on it. And guess whose name's there at the top? Spaceman's. Not mine. So I'm just a little mad, right? So here we go, running over to Spaceman's room just to find out exactly what this joke is, because it has to be a joke. So we're knocking on his door. Spaceman comes to the door. We're like, hey, Spaceman, we saw your name on the top of the dean's list. As if you, someone who went out and kicked it every night, would actually be on the dean's list. He said, yeah. Spaceman just put his hands in his pocket and leaned back a little bit. He asked us 3 simple questions. He said, in the morning, on the rare occasion that any of you make it to breakfast, do you ever see me there? Well, some of us couldn't actually answer this question because some of us had never even been to breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have a visitor up here. There we go. Sleep always seemed more appealing than food, right? Spaceman said, I'm there before 8 every day. Then he said, well, what about in between classes? You know, when you guys are hanging out, playing Xbox and watching your soap operas. Am I ever around? Oh, he said, Spaceman, no, you're never around then. Then he said, well, what about after classes? You know, right before dinner. Do you ever see me then? And I'm like, Spaceman, where are you during the day? He said, college is my full-time job. Every day, all day, I hide from everything and everyone and study. That's how I made the dean's list. My nights and weekends, they belong to me. But every day, all day, I work hard all day long. Think about that. Between Monday and Friday, 8 to 5, you have 45 hours. You can go ahead and fill this in your guidebook. 45 hours. If you are a full-time student, you will spend 16 of those hours sitting in the classroom. if you're scheduled to graduate on time. Do the math. 45 minus 16 leaves you with what? 29 hours of potential study time. But that leaves your nights and your weekends completely free. Now, some of you may say, well, my professor told me that I should spend 2 hours studying to every 1 hour of class time, which in this case would equal 32 hours. But trust me when I say that 29 is a great start. Now, others of you may say, well, Shon, I'm a commuter, or I have a job, or there are other things that happen between 8 to 5. I can't commit every free hour that I have between 8 to 5 studying. And that's very true. But these other commitments are just more reasons for you to take control of your schedule. Manage your time. You can't create more hours in a day, but you can make better use of the ones that you have. Try using a planner. Schedule time into your day for studying just like you would schedule time into your day for work. The basic idea here is to get organized. Now for a potential detour. One I'll call technological temptations. Cell phones ringing, IMs popping up with stuff that may be a lot more interesting than 12th century European history. Turn them off, or you'll spend 2 hours studying and only get 20 minutes worth of real studying done. Talk and IM, or even go visit with your friends all you want after the studying is complete. All right, let's move on to number 2. Get inside your professors' heads. First things first, they don't want to flunk everybody. Really, they don't. They may come off as intimidating, but even if they wanted to give everyone in the class a C or below, which they don't, not only would it reflect poorly upon you, but it would also reflect poorly upon them. Imagine them trying to explain to the dean why no one in their class got what they were trying to teach after an entire term. Besides, they're smart people, and they chose to be here. They had a lot of career options. So they really want to help you. So even if they appear to be tough, you have to keep reminding yourself that they really want to help you. I remember my junior year in college, had this professor named Dr. Williams. Very intelligent, well-spoken, well-dressed, kind of an intimidating guy. I thought he was a snob. He was from some big-time East Coast school. Definitely looked the part. It was a communications class, and he was talking one day about Janis Joplin and how her music inspired a generation of young people in the 60s. And me being a music lover, didn't know who Janis Joplin was, so I raised my hand. Who in the heck is Janis Joplin? Without pause, he said, office hours, Thursday. Kept right on lecturing. I'm like, why in the world did I open my mouth? Fearing the worst, I showed up to office hours Thursday ready to grovel. Instead, what happened was he handed me a couple CDs and a video. He really wanted to know what I thought. And amazingly, I kind of liked some of the music. But what amazed me even more is that Professor Williams could have simply answered my question in class, and that would have been the end of it. But he went above and beyond. He didn't want to just tell me, he wanted to teach me. It was then I realized that Professor Williams wasn't such a bad guy after all. Neither was the thought of going to office hours. I had just made him out to be this intimidating guy simply because he had the title of professor. Now, one more thing on getting inside your professors' heads. They're human. So they have egos, just like the rest of us. So they're going to lecture on what they think is most important. Not necessarily all of the material covered in the book. Then they're going to test on what they think is most important. Material covered in the lecture. You have to go to class and take good notes. Potential detour here is thinking you could blow off class, show up to the test, and do well because you read the book. Unless your professor's name is on the spine of that book, it's all about the class. It is all about the notes. Speaking of notes, you all got a CD when you came in here today. It's called Microsoft Office OneNote 2003. This is what it looks like. If you need help getting started organized in your classes, use this CD. With this CD, you can write your notes, type your notes, draw diagrams, even audio record your lectures. If you go to your bookstore, it's going to cost you $49, but to reward your brilliant decision to come here to Gold Rush, you get it for absolutely free. All right, let's move on. Number 3, study smart. Study smart. First things first, it's learning, not memorizing. It's taking an active approach, writing and doing versus staring at a textbook for hours at a time. And just to be clear, catching up on your reading, not the same thing as studying. Now, one of the easiest things you could do is show up to class and set in the T-zone. First couple rows up front and the center section going all the way in the back. There are studies that actually prove that students who sit in the T-zone get higher grades. Why? Let's say you had a late night for whatever reason, and you showed up to class, you're dead tired, but you sit in front of the professor. When you sit there, you're much less likely to fall asleep. Simple common courtesy will keep you awake. Now, if you're not in the T-zone, that means you're in the U-zone, the unconscious zone, where it is easy to fall off to sleep. So, let's say you showed up to class, you're ready to study smart, you're sitting in the T-zone. It's then all about getting the 3 W's. First W is going to be where. Where? Where are you going to study? Answer is typically not in your apartment, not in your dorm room, or where there will be a lot of loud noise going on. Loud music going down the hallway, someone banging on your door every 15 minutes to say, what are we doing tonight? Recipe for disaster. Same is true if you live at home. Family members who know you are studying will have no problems knocking on your door to ask one quick question every 15 minutes. Even if you go to the library, which I think is an excellent choice, there's still a chance to slip up and get the where wrong. Now, there's a place in every library that I refer to as Turtle Row. It's the area of the library right next to the snack machines, the stairwell, elevator, and every time there's a noise in that area, everybody in that area pops their heads up to look around, see what's going on or who's coming by. And since there's a noise probably about every 2 minutes, Turtle Row is a serious roadblock on the way to the dean's list. So where are good places to study? Good places to study are usually boring, quiet, and distraction-free. And usually there should be nothing more exciting in the room than your calculus book. Scary thought, right? Any thoughts on the next W? Next W is going to be when. Woo! When. Now, some people are morning people. Some people are night people. Know yourself. But regardless of the kind of person you are, the hour or two that you have between classes on any given day is an excellent time to slip away to the library and get some real studying in. Now, detour. One I call caffeinated cramming. Fueling up on caffeine to the point where your head is racing and your hands are shaking, then studying all night. Now, would a big-time college athlete stay up the night before a big game, sucking down Red Bulls trying to maximize his performance? Nah. So why would you stay up the entire night before a final exam, 12 cups of coffee, trying to maximize your effectiveness? When it's put that way, it is clear that it's not a good idea, but I guarantee you, some of you are going to try it. Now for the last W, and that's going to be with who or with whom for all of you English majors. Who are you going to study with? Group study can be a huge help, but you have to be careful who you choose to study with. Some group study sessions can end up more like group therapy rather than preparation for the big test. Now imagine this scenario. It's the night before a big exam. It's crunch time. You have to make use of every minute that you have available. So you decide to connect with some classmates to help things go a little easier, or so you think. Get here to study. You find out person A over here just sucked down 5 cups of coffee, so she's going to be like really focused all night, right? This other guy's just sitting over here just moping, staring out the window all night. Girlfriend just broke up with him. And then this other cat over here, you're not sure who he is. Face kind of unfamiliar because he hasn't been to class in the last 2 weeks, and he wants to see your notes. Then this other cat over here, he's just freaking out talking about, I'm never going to be able to get all this information in. You end up in that situation, it is going to be ugly. The key to successful study groups is finding the right people to study with. Don't let anyone, not even a good friend, waste your time by being unprepared. All right, let's move on to number 4. Get involved, get experience. Now, if you've been on campus more than a half hour, I know you've heard this one already. So I'm not going to be just another person repeating the same information, but there are some tips that I want to give you on how to do it and how to do it well. First up, start small, think big in terms of both clubs and jobs. Everybody wants the glamour job, right? But in order to get that glamour job, you have to start small and work your way up. Know this guy named Pat, went to Loyola University. Huge sports fanatic. But he didn't have the skills to play on the college level. So he decided to get a part-time job, sports information office, pure grunt work. But he loved the atmosphere, knew he wanted a career in sports, so stuck with it. By his junior year, he was the assistant sports information director. Then by his senior year, he was the sports information director. An actual full-time job, and one that is usually reserved for someone with a degree already in hand. Pat got his dream job. But after he graduated, it led to an even bigger job with an NBC network affiliate. Now, another note about getting involved and getting experience. This one's going to be a detour for you. Too much of a good thing. If you join 10 or more clubs and you're so stretched that you barely have time enough to make it to the meetings, much less do anything positive for the organization, you've accomplished absolutely nothing. And you'll think your resume looks great, right up until the point where you're drilled in an interview on how you made that organization different or better, and you have absolutely nothing to say in response. Now, you all want to get some type of internship or some kind of career-related work experience. Heard that one, right? Now I'll add a bit of value-added perspective here. PricewaterhouseCoopers, nation's leading recruiter of college graduates, has a very comprehensive internship program, hiring over 1,600 new interns every year. 85% of those interns that get in there and get the job done are then offered full-time positions with the firm. Pretty good odds. Now, the rest of the story here is that interns become priority hires for available full-time positions. I had a friend named Maria, went to Miami of Ohio, amazing marketing student, had 2 interviews with Procter & Gamble for an advertising job. One more, job was going to be hers. Right up until Procter & Gamble offered their interns from the previous summer jobs. And after literally every single one of them accepted, Maria was shut out. Simply because she didn't have any internship experience. You have to get involved. You have to get experience. All right? Let's change things up a little bit, and let's talk about majors. I'm going to ask for 4 volunteers. And this gentleman right here in this middle section, right up in the top of this balcony in the orange shirt, I want you to hustle up and run down. Come on down. This young lady right over here in the red and white shirt, the red tee. There we go right here. This gentleman right here in the green. And this gentleman right here in the red. Come on up, you guys. We're Shreve and Earhart. Young PV, the OC. All right, here. What residence hall are you representing? Wiley and Meredith. All righty there. What residence hall?
Otop and Tark.
Same one for you, right? Give it up for my guy out here. All righty. I'm going to ask you for a series of 5 questions. The person who answers the most right will win a wonderful prize from me. Trick is you guys have to help them get the right answer. So this is your section all the way over here on the end. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on down, slide down. This is you right here. This gentleman in the red got the whole top section, both rows up here, and you have this whole section over here. You guys got it? All right, I'm going to ask them those series of 5 questions. You guys help them get the right answer, and let's see who wins the right prize, okay? I need a scorekeeper. Who's down in front? Who's going to help me out? This young lady right here, okay? The purple shirt. Okay, you guys ready? Questions are as follows. What percentage of students in college in the U.S. will change their major at least once before graduating? Letter A, 10%, B, 30%, C, 60%, D, 80%. We can't hear you guys. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the answer is letter C, 60%. Changing your major is okay, but just not every week. All right? Number 2, what percentage of students will participate in internships before they graduate? Letter A, 20%, B, 40%, C, 70%, D, 80%. And the answer is B, 40%. An internship is an unbeatable way to determine if you are in the right major. Now, number 3, how many students attempting to get a 4-year degree finish their degree in 4 years? Letter A, 37, B, 25, C, 63, D, 75%. Answer is letter A, 37%. Scorekeeper, who's winning up here? Matthew's winning. Who's winning up here? Okay. Moving on. Number 4, how many students get a job after graduation relating to their field of study? Letter A, 50, letter B, 65, C, 80, or D, 90%? I think you need some help over here. Answer is letter A, 50%. Simply getting a degree in a particular major does not guarantee you a job in that related field, so be careful. And finally, number 5, how many 2004 college graduates got to or had to move back into their parents' home after graduation? Letter A, 23, B, 36, C, 45, or D, 57%? Answer is letter D, 57%. Now, for many people, that was a choice. But for most, it was more about not having a great job versus wanting to spend a little more time with mom and dad. Now, scorekeeper, who's my winner here? 1 and 2 here? Give him a hand. But because I think all of you guys are winners, right, I can't just bring them up here and not give them any prizes. You all get Bank of America Student Survival Kits, which includes a CD case, a calculator, pen, and some great notes on student banking, all right? Yeah, give it up for them. I'll take those back from you. Thank you very much. And, of course, I have one here for my scorekeeper. Thank you very much. Yeah, come on out and get it for me. So, how do you make sure that you are in the right major, graduate, then live where you want after you graduate? It's all about personally owning the journey as you go through college. So what we did was create a career management test to see how effectively you've been doing that so far. So let's quickly take this test. That's all you have to do is circle yes or no, and we'll see what happens at the end. First up, I have taken an interest inventory recently to identify careers that would be a good fit for me. Circle yes or no. I've made an appointment with or met with my academic advisor. I've talked to professors or looked online to see what people in my major typically do with it from a career standpoint. I've joined a club that deals with my major. I've spent time at work with someone in a field related to my major. I've planned out my classes for the next several terms to help make sure I graduate on time. I've been to my school's career center. I know the names of 3 companies that hire interns in my field. I know the names of 3 companies that recruit graduates with my major. And finally, I know the names of the top graduate school in the nation for the field I plan to pursue. Now, how many of you circled yes to all of these questions? Yeah, for those who did. And how many of you circled yes to more than half of them? Even better. But for those of you that didn't circle that many, not a surprise and absolutely no problem at all. You guys haven't even started classes yet. So what I want you to do is to use this next section called planning your road trip to help put you in a position to say yes to most of, if not all of these questions within the next 6 to 12 months. Now, please don't assume that your major will be a natural fit into something someone will want to pay you for. Some majors translate very easily into jobs, some don't. So do your homework. It's your professor's job to teach you about the subject. It's your job to learn where, if anywhere, it'll lead you. Some of you may be thinking or finding it a bit odd that I'm up here talking about what happens after college and you guys haven't started classes even. But the reality is, you'll quickly begin to make decisions that will affect or impact what options you'll have available to you when you graduate. Very quickly. Let me explain. You'll begin to interview for jobs at the beginning of your senior year, not at the end of it. Before you go into those interviews for jobs, you'll want to have an internship. At the latest, you'll begin to interview for internships at the beginning of your junior year. That gives you 2 years. 2 years to build your track record in and out of the classroom and make your mark. That's not a lot of time. If you wait until year 2 to get started, too many people who did start at the beginning of their freshman year will be in line ahead of you. If you really want to get into impact positions to where you're able to make a difference, you have to start now. And then there's the academic element. I've seen too many freshmen come in and fall for the freshman myth, that everyone does poorly their freshman year. Let's see what happens if you fall for it. Now, recruiters tell me that you'll need a minimum of a 3.4 GPA in order to have a shot at a great internship. A 3.0, that'll get you a decent one, but we're looking for greatness here. Let's say you come in your freshman year, you pull off a 2.5 GPA. And a lot of people will get 2.5s and think that's fine because everyone does poorly their freshman year. Go ahead and write 2.5 next to year 1. So you have that 2.5. You know that you need a 2.4 before you begin that junior year. What GPA do you need to get your sophomore year in order to have a shot at that great internship? 4.3, which is a little bit above straight A's, and I don't think they give 4.3s here. The point, if you fall for the freshman myth, it's over before it starts. To be clear, freshmen do get A's, freshmen do make the dean's list, and you can too if you make the decision to invest your time wisely.